We are going to focus on our spinal flexibility today for our stretch segment. We will start off on our mat. Just lying down with your legs stretched out in front of you. We're going to do a few full curl-ups. Now, I'm not going to do as many as I ordinarily would, just being a little bit on the cautious side, just getting back into that forward flexion. So starting off with your arms stretched out overhead, your body is laying flat, your hips are open. We are going to start this movement with our arm pullover. So bringing our arms from this overhead movement into our zombie position, and then adding in our chin nod. So lifting the base of the skull, making our passive double chin to tilt our head forward on our spine, and then nodding the rib cage forward to breathe out, pulling ourselves up into our full curl up, reaching past our feet to stretch not just our hamstrings, but into the lower and upper back as well. And then sitting up tall and then rolling through the spine on the way back down. So really focusing on exhaling, chin nod, rib cage tilt, really pulling the low abs in, drawing our body up, hollowing out the abdomen so that we get a nice stretch all the way in the low back. Now, for those of you that are going to struggle with this particular movement, possibly because you don't have the core strength or you're too rigid in the low back to come up, there are a few things you can do to help yourself off the floor. One, you can add in that leg to kick forward so that you can get up, still focusing on those same elements of the stretch, but without thinking about straining the low back on the way up. So using some momentum or the leg as a lever to bring yourself into that full curl up position. We'll do one more. So working on that flexibility and flexion. So throughout this video, we are going to work on stretching through all of the movements of the spine. And in this one, we're stretching flexion. So when our spine is in this rounded forward curved position, we're creating flexion through the full spine. So keeping the jaw retracted back and lengthening the back of the neck, hollowing out the abdomen so we get that nice curvature through the entire spine and not just at the points where we're extremely flexible. From here, we're going to work on some of the flexibility in that subscapular area. So taking your hand and reaching it up and over and grabbing the outside of the foot. We're going to create a little bit of a tension lock by pushing your hand away, pulling back at that same time to create a little bit of a stretch just under the shoulder blade, keeping your shoulders relaxed. So what we are doing is we're breaking up some of the individual components of our forward flexion and building in some flexibility so that in our second round of curl-ups, we feel more flexible. Reaching up and over to stretch the other side, grabbing onto the other foot, kicking that hand away just as you are pulling back, taking a few deep breaths in, expanding into the rib cage and into that shoulder blade, and then breathe out, kicking your hand further away from you as you pull back to get a really nice stretch just under the shoulder blade. One more time each side, reaching up and over, kicking your hand away as you pull back. Excellent work. Do not forget to breathe. And one last time, up and over, reaching to the outside of the foot, kicking your hand away as you pull back, hollowing out the abdomen. Good job. From here, we're going to isolate our hamstrings. So in our hamstring stretch, in our forward flexion, there are a few different ways we can do this. If you can reach all the way and grab onto the toes, we can do a little bit of a jog movement, stretching one leg out, and then the other, trying to get a little bit more range of motion each time. If you're very fully flexible, you can grab onto both feet. We can rock back and forth between a point and flex position, breathing out as you push your fingertips away, and then slowly coming back. And then exhale, push your fingertips away, and coming back with control. So in breaking down these components, the subscapular stretch and the hamstring and calf stretch, we're assisting our body in achieving more of the total forward flexion, so that the next time we do our curl-ups, we feel like we have that full range of motion. So from here, with our hamstring isolation and our upper back isolation, we can do 4 or 5 more curl-ups, starting off with those arms stretched out overhead, bringing our arms to our zombie position, nodding our chin down, tilting the rib cage forward, and then breathing out to peel our body off the floor, reaching up and past our feet, hollowing out the abdomen, feeling that additional enhanced range of motion from breaking down those individual components and achieving more range of motion in flexion. So breathing out, reach, stretch past, and sitting up tall, and then roll through the spine on the way back down. Just 2 more. Chin nod, rib cage tilt, tightening up the lower abdominals, pulling them tight as you peel yourself off the floor, hollowing out the abdomen, reaching past the feet, and coming down again. And then not losing your pants because you do tend to shift around. One last one, keeping this PG for everybody. And core is tight, hollowing out the abdomen, reaching past the feet. And then good job. So we're gonna stretch next into extension. So to do our extension stretch, we're gonna use our foam roller. You can extend over other objects like the Bosu or the stability ball. And we'll see what we've got today. But I always like to start my extension stretches just with a chest expansion. So our extension is often limited, at least our thoracic extension is limited by tight pectorals. And so we're just gonna relax our arms into this open position, feeling our chest stretching, trying hard to rest the forearms on the ground and keeping the core somewhat engaged so that we're not popping our rib cage up, but keeping our pelvis and our rib cage relatively neutral. And just a small movement, rocking side to side, back and forth, getting a little bit of a stretch through the pectorals and resting the arms down. Now, if you feel that this is not aggressive enough, you can bend the arms into 90 to increase the stretch. And you are welcome to do these small movements in order to enhance that pectoral stretch. The chest is the gateway to thoracic mobility. And now we are working on thoracic spinal mobility. So we're gonna slide off the side of the foam roller carefully and rotate our foam roller and bring it to our upper back. Now we can do a few rolls up and down. So breathing out, getting a little bit of an active release from the roller, trying hard to keep our neck in a neutral position. So I like to support my head where my skull meets my spine, because that just ensures that my neck is being supported in a neutral position. I'm not pushing my head forward and craning it forward, and I'm not letting my head flop back. So exhaling, roll back, allowing the foam roll to do its work, releasing the spine, and then coming back to the start position. Resting your pelvis down on the floor so your bum is down. You're going to just do small little arch back over the foam roller. Adjust your body position as you arch back. Now we're just kind of coaxing our thoracic spine to have a bit of mobility. Now some of you might find you do not have anywhere near this range of motion. Definitely you're not wanting to force the range of motion. You're just getting your body to adjust to having some mobility in extension. So we've moved from our flexion movement of our spine, that curl forward, to extension, which is our arch back. And we're going to cover all of the movements of the spine today in developing some basic mobility and flexibility in those areas. Now, if you have a Bosu and you would like to just do a little bit more extension work, you can grab the Bosu, make sure it's firm, we don't want a squishy Bosu to lie down on, and we're gonna rest our pelvis at the base of the Bosu, and then slowly reaching our chest up and back, supporting the head, and allowing our torso to take shape of the contour of the Bosu, expanding your chest, and you should not feel any compression in your neck. You should feel very well supported in your neck. If you do feel a stretch in your pectorals, that could be another limiting factor. You can go back to your chest stretch. And if you feel a little bit of a stretch in your abdominal wall, that is okay as well. Just resting your head in your hands so that your neck is well supported and you're not craning back from the neck, and just enjoying the feeling of that arch back right over the Bosu. More advanced, you can slide one leg out if that does not feel like it's compressing into the low back. You can stretch that other leg out and then working that extension. Make sure your core is engaged and your neck is supported. And then slowly drawing one foot back in and then the other, and curling up from that movement, protecting the back. Good job. And if that feels too aggressive or you're prone to vertigo, you can definitely stick just with your foam roller. Next, we're going to work on rotation. And we're going to start our rotation series off with open butt. So we're going to lie down on the side of your body with your knees tucked to 90 and bring your hands over your ears, taking the top elbow up and back in rotation, and then slowly reaching out to the side and coming back with control. Now, many of us are, of course, going to feel this predominantly in the chest, really thinking of pulling that shoulder back and then reaching out the arms. If you have the ability to do this in a full overhead range of motion, sweep with the arm. You can bring the arm up and around, getting that chest expansion, feeling that shoulder move towards the floor, trying hard to keep that knee anchored. And we're working on the mobility of the spine from the rib cage up. If you put your hand on your low back and you put your hand on your tummy, you should feel that your back is not rotating. You can feel how that 90-degree angle in your knees is helping you to preserve that neutral spinal alignment. And that's what we're aiming for. We will try one more, reaching up and over, stretching the arms out, and feeling that rotational twist of the spine. The stretch will feel like it's coming down the back, but it is also assisting you with that thoracic mobility. So the mobility of the spine from the rib cage to the neck. Switching over to the other side. So tucking your knees up, bringing your hands over your ears, nice 90-degree angle with the knees, and then rotating that top elbow up and open, anchoring the knees with the hand if you need to, and then coming back with control. So some things to think about: breathing out as you take your shoulder up and back, really thinking of engaging your core to protect the low back. And if you feel like you're trying to force the movement, rather think about coaxing the movement. The whole idea is that we're gently developing a little bit more mobility each time we just rock into that extension or that rotation position. So if you can, bring your hand up and over, breathing out, reaching out to the sides. And again, if you feel that you're not getting the full benefit, trying hard to anchor the knee, you can use your other hand to do that, or even just controlling that leg position with the core and the thighs. We'll do one more, reaching up and over, and then breathing out and stretching out to the side. Great job. We're going to do another stretch that we don't ordinarily do, which incorporates a little bit of a spinal twist. Now, you may have seen this one in yoga. You can start with your knees tucked up and then just slide one foot underneath. It's like a little bit of a pretzel. And then tucking the other foot over top, we're going to hug our hand into the knee and slowly rotating to the side. So we're getting a little bit of a stretch in through the glute. As we rotate to face the side wall, we're thinking of pulling the chest open and placing the hand beside you. Now, if you do have full range of motion here, you're welcome to try to place the other hand in front. And you can bring this hand up and you're thinking of fitting in between two walls. And this again is helping you with your spinal mobility. If you feel that this is all a bit too much, you can just work a little bit of the rotation by hugging the knee in and twisting to the side. If your hips are restricted, this can also be done with one leg stretched out to the front. So with that one leg stretched out to the front, bringing the other leg up and over, hugging that knee in, and then just adding that small rotation to the side. Some of our rotational flexibility is inhibited from our hips, both in the front and in the sides. So keeping the shoulders down and back and relaxed and twisting through if you can. We're going to switch over to the other side. This one I like to call pretzel. I don't know if there are other names that you're familiar with. When you pull this knee up, you're just going to grab the outside of the leg with the opposite arm, and then pulling that knee into the chest, and then slowly starting to rotate away. Now, if you're more restricted on one side than the other, you may just be able to hold this position, and that will be your entire stretch right there. And that's going to be the end of your range of motion. If you have the ability to, you're going to take your hand and place it beside you and start to pivot away You'll still feel the stretch across the hip, but you'll be incorporating that range of motion through the spine, drawing your jaw into that look behind position, and working hard to keep the neck as neutral as you can, despite maybe some points of tension, keeping the shoulders dropped. You can even walk your fingers on the floor if you find that helps. Wonderful. From here, we're going to work a little bit on our lateral flexion. Now, the most basic lateral flexion exercise is in straddle. So we're going to take our feet into our straddle position. And if this is uncomfortable for you, it's too tight, you can sit in a demi-straddle. You're welcome to sit in a full straddle. I personally find one benefit of the demi-straddle is that you have a little bit more of an anchor and it's a little bit kinder to the knee. If you need to sit up on something, you can try rolled up yoga mat or yoga block. You're going to take your hand and tuck it under your lower leg. I like to grab my calf. If you can't reach there, you can just grab onto the top of the leg. And from here, we are going to take the top shoulder and open it up and reach to the ceiling. From here, we're stretching our oblique. We're stretching our QL. It should feel like a nice deep stretch. Trying hard to keep the shoulders dropped away from the ears. And now we're stretching in our lateral flexion, another movement of our spine. If from here, you can pull your shoulder up and back and take a few deep breaths in, expanding from the inside and then breathing out. We can try reaching up and over. If you need to, you can drop that forearm into the lowest knee position and continue to pull that top elbow up and back. Really feeling that nice deep stretch in the side of the torso. We're working on the mobility of lateral flexion. We hope to be able to get that nice gentle curvature all the way down the spine. Let's switch over to the other side. We will do another lateral flexion exercise, which is mermaid. But for those of you who have trouble with your knees, we can revert to this one. Now, part of the reason I like to have my hand tucked under my calf is that if you're prone to hyperextension, you can actually use this as a tool to prevent hyperextension, and then drawing that top shoulder up, reaching up to the ceiling, getting a nice deep stretch in through the side of the torso, really thinking of pulling the rib back, pulling the shoulder back, reaching up to the sky, and using your breath to take a nice deep breath in, expanding the rib cage through the entire abdomen, and then breathing out, deepening the stretch, reaching up and over. If you need to, you can bring that forearm into that lowest knee position, bringing the forearm across the forehead. Or if it doesn't bother the shoulder, it doesn't bother the neck, you can keep the arm up. If you're unaccustomed to having the arms overhead in this position, sometimes just having the support of being able to press the back of your hand into the forehead is great. Excellent job. And then coming back up. We are going to do the mermaid as well. For today, I'll show you sitting on a yoga block. If you need to, you can sit up on a foam roller. Just sitting with the bum completely level if you can. And then this one leg tucked back so that our hips sit level. If I were to do this on the ground, I don't think my hips would be perfectly level today, having the sneaking suspicion. So I'm just going to sit balanced up on the yoga block. But again, this is going to give me a little bit of an anchor so that when I reach up and over to the side, I'm getting that nice lateral flexion all the way down my spine. I'm trying to create an anchor here for my pelvis so that when I curve to the side, I'm reaching up and over and making the side of my torso nice and fluid and long and even like a leaf and not crooked like a geometric shape. You want to keep it really relaxed in the shoulder, not all bent and contorted. And then from here, we're going to switch to the other side. So flipping that other foot out and tipping that other leg behind, finding that neutral pelvic position, shoulders drop down, core engaged, and then starting off by reaching up and then over to the side. Now you'll know that you're too low to the ground if you feel too much compression in the hip, or if you feel any pressure in your knee, then you need to elevate your bum off of the floor. So this is sort of step one, would be the yoga block or a rolled up mat. You can also sit on the foam roller. You can kind of perch yourself on the edge of the bow suit to give even a little bit more rise, and then getting that nice solid stretch all the way down the side of the torso. Excellent job. Wonderful. So next, we're going to stretch our inner thigh in the wall. and we're going to work on our roll down on the wall. It's another spinal mobility exercise, but we're going to pre-stretch our inner thigh. So we're just going to lie down, relaxing our neck and shoulders, scooching over to the wall. I like to get nice and tight to the wall, but a good rule is to ensure that you feel only your inner thigh stretching. You don't feel any pressure in your low back. If you feel pressure in your low back, you are in fact too close to the wall. And then you just need to give yourself a little bit more distance so that your bum is away from the wall. We're feeling a stretch in our inner thighs you can support with your hands, working hard on keeping your spine relaxed. So just helping these muscles to relax will help us to relax the hip flexors. From here, we're going to tuck the feet in, bringing the base of the feet together and pushing the knees into the wall to stretch out the groin, short adductors, the hip flexors, and relaxing the neck and shoulders. Now, in order for me to do the curl downs, I'm just going to need to adjust my yoga mat so that I don't push myself away from the wall. This is a good kind of thing to note. If you're pushing yourself away from where you're working, you're going to possibly feel like you're straining a little bit more than you want to. So it can be good to have a sticky mat, a sticky surface, something with traction. So give me one quick sec. Just something with traction so that when we're doing our curl down, we're not pushing ourselves away. Now, you're starting again close to the wall, and I have my base of my feet up on the wall, and I'm just walking my feet up. Now, the bar offers me kind of a little bit of a natural end of range of motion, but if you kind of look at where I am, my knees and my feet are level. I'm not traveling up past that. And from here, I'm slowly using my abs to roll through my spine to lower back down to the ground. So breathing out on the way up, picking up the tailbone first, walking my feet up, using my core, lifting into a partial bridge, and then using my abs to squeeze the toothpaste out of the tube, so to speak, rolling and articulating each individual vertebrae as I'm coming back down to the ground. And again, rolling up, breathing out as you come to the top position. Good job. And then rolling back down with control. Opening up the low back. We'll just do 2 more. Now, this would feel potentially a little bit more stiff, but we've already done a few different exercises to help us loosen up the low back. So we're really thinking about using our core to open up those vertebrae in the lumbar spine where we tend to be a little bit stiff. We've worked a lot on the thoracic mobility, and this is a great one to assist with the lumbar mobility. This will be the last one. So walking the feet up the wall into this top position, and then lowering down with control. Good job. From here, we're going to tip to the side, and then we're going to come back to our mat. Excellent. So in order to have a flexible spine, we do have to have some suppleness and flexibility in our hip flexors. Now you can kind of tell if your hip flexors are tight just by pulling one knee into your chest. And if you can hold that knee tight to the chest, that's fantastic. But while we're holding this knee here, we're going to slowly start to straighten the other leg. Now, as we straighten the leg, we want to maintain this knee into the chest position and slowly reach that leg out along the floor. Now, what is really common is as we open this up, we feel this other top leg wanting to pull away. And that wanting to pull away of that top leg is the tightness in the hip flexor of that base leg that's pulling our whole pelvis with us. So in this position, we're trying to maintain that compression of the hip flexor of this top leg while opening up the hip flexor of the base leg. So taking a deep breath in, breathing out. Hold the knee into your chest, relax your neck and shoulders, and sliding that other leg out, really concentrating on opening the hip, depressing the shoulders away from the ears. And then we're going to switch to the other side, pulling the other knee in, and slowly gliding the other leg along the floor, opening up that other hip and feeling compression on the second side. Good work. We're gonna do one more time each side. Pulling the other leg in, feeling that hip flexor compress and gliding the other leg along the floor, pulling the knee into the chest, dropping your neck and shoulders. Good job. And one last one. Pulling the other knee in. Now, this is sort of the basic movement that we need to do before we do any type of spinal stretch. Happy baby, full tuck. So the most basic spinal stretch on the floor, we're pulling both knees in and we're hugging our knees to our chest. Now, if you can't maintain a neutral neck position here, you'll want to support your head with a towel, but I like to think of picking up my base of my skull and creating a little bit of my passive double chin. And if you feel some stretch here, this will be the end of the exercise. We'll just stretch in this position. If you do not, you can progress past this and bringing your feet up, grabbing onto the inside of the arches. We can think of picking up the low back off of the floor for happy baby. You're still pulling the arch of the floor to the ground, and we're opening up the low back by letting our tailbone come off of the floor. And we're kind of using a little bit of a tension lock, just like we did with our upper back, just like we did with our subscapular stretch at the beginning. We're pulling our feet down towards the ground and we're trying to untuck the tailbone a little bit. We're getting that low back opening sensation. Now from here, if this isn't enough and you don't feel too much, you're welcome to take your feet and bring them together. And still in this position, using your core, just coaxing some flexibility into the lower back to open up those lower lumbar vertebrae. You can rock back and forth a little bit if you have the flexibility to pick your tailbone off of the floor and roll through the low back. And then the most advanced, of course, if you can pick the feet off the floor and you do not find it too strenuous, slowly bringing the legs overhead into plow position, supporting with your core and really feeling the hamstring stretch and the low back open up. So breathing through it, either hugging those knees to your chest, happy baby grabbing on the arches, or slowly bringing the legs into this plow position in order to stretch out the lumbar spine, and always coming out of it with care, either with the knees bent or the legs straight, and thinking of articulating each individual vertebrae as you roll through, bringing the feet down with control, pulling one knee in to stretch one leg out, compressing that one hip flexor and really reaching that other leg straight, and then switching to the other side. Wonderful work. Stretching both legs straight, reaching both arms up overhead, chin nod, ribcage tilt, peel yourself off the floor, and reaching up and forward, and executing a fuller forward fold than we were able to previously in the workout. That's how we develop our spinal mobility, targeting every movement of the spine. You guys did an excellent job. We'll see you next time for stability.